limitations they bring in. I think the biggest thing to take away is the fact that the sheer size of it. And look at the market, the way we kind of time the market. If you look at an LLM today, OpenAI, ChatGPT stuff, it was meant for the common man. How do you build the hype? How do you build the market for you to have more and more people start adopting it and start using it? You have to broad base it. So today, LLM, just in terms of, we put it in perspective, the BERT model, which came in 2018, was 349 million parameters, vis-a-vis a ChatGPT 4 in just 5 years is 1.4 billion parameters. So imagine the scale at which we operate. So obviously it means that there's a lot more broad basing and there's very little of real depth knowledge that comes in. So I think that becomes the first limitation, the fact that it is broad based, and it will not probably help you meet certain requirements. But the reason I would want to kind of not call it a limitation but an opportunity is the fact that everybody here is here because it is broad based, and there's tons of opportunity for all of us to build something that's very unique, that's very domain specific, and something that solves a particular problem. And I would like to take 3 things away. One is, start from Ramana. You said about Cure Skin, right? Now I remember we were working with Tacto quite some time back, and we had taken them to Hyderabad. And not sure how many of you know, we built a model in collaboration with an eye hospital. I'm not taking the name. And we were able to kind of influence, and it was called out by the government of Andhra Pradesh. We were able to save about 180,000 people's eyesight, which otherwise would have lost because of diabetic retinopathy, right? So it's not that the models did not exist. The models existed for a very long time, but they were purpose-built. But with LLM came the hype. To answer your question, you need to create the hype, and for creating the hype, you need to kind of cater to the common man, which is what we did. Everybody wanting to ask something and get something out of it is what made it what it is today. Now, moving on, right, the second big limitation that I see against an opportunity is the fact that what Akshay does today. So today we've been, ever since OpenAI came, Satya came, we had a lot of interest, a lot of buzz. But how many people actually started and finished a particular project? And which is where I think what you said was very relevant. And LLM, by one, you get bogged down by the cost. And let's accept how easy it is for you to get hold of a LLM today. Coming from Microsoft, I can tell you it's not easy. You raise a quota request, it's going to take you quite a bit of time to get your hands on the GPU and then actually start building out your own stuff. And even if you do end up building out some AI application, just the fact that the cost will eventually kill you. So which is where you need people like Akshay who do prompt engineering, who do RAG implementations, who can create vector databases for you to be able to do the right performance, price, and efficiency ratio. Right? And the third thing that I also see is the fact that an LLM does not understand ethics. And coming back to the point that somebody else was making, if you were to ask something, then unless and until you build that extra layer to complement the LLM, it's not really going to be of use to you. In fact, it could land you in a bigger trouble than what you kind of try to solve for. So that's the way I look at it. Is it a hype? Oh, hype is definitely needed. If there was no hype, none of us would be here. So we created that hype, and now we really look forward to people, all of you in the room, and probably a bunch of others who are taking the LLM, building on the hype, creating extremely curated stuff that's going to help a bunch of folks and industries out there. Thank you. Alan?
Yeah, so interesting question around what is the hype, and my take on this is it's all purely a hype. If you think about a lot of companies have started working with LLMs. And I think not a lot. Every company wants to do something with LLMs today. I beg to believe that not a lot have actually seen production and value. For example, everybody wants to build a CX agent out of an LLM. Have you able to get rid of your CX task force? No. People talk about it will reduce the CX task force by 90%, 80%, but it's not still there that you can actually replace a human as of yet, both from a commercial standpoint as well as from an accuracy standpoint. So, in a way, I think it's, I call it very dusty, because there's a lot of dust, because a lot of people are doing a lot of things. And that is the hype, because it's all very dusty, and hope that this dust will settle at some point in time where people will really understand what it is capable of and what it is not capable of. Today, it looks like it is capable of doing a lot of things, and people kind of believe it to the sense of it. But I think a few folks, and a lot of folks sitting in this room also understand that it is not what it is.
Yeah, I think generally there is this sense of aura around it, which probably needs to settle a lot more. And whenever organizations look at deploying LLMs, understanding in what relevance, under what impactfulness it has to be deployed is paramount, and not go by the hype. It's okay to go ahead, explore, exploit, but committing to it too early on probably is succumbing to hype. And just to build that story around it, right? Today, I also believe that LLMs are more around, and they are good in terms of few very canonical use cases, which obviously have been there in the market. Maybe classification, maybe bucketization, which at human scale was a bit difficult. We accelerated that. But there is enough journey to be had, to get to how a human brain operates. And our strength is more in terms of reasoning out things, right? And once you begin to reason, then you can start thinking about, can I act upon something that is an outcome of LLMs. So, to continue on those thoughts, do you feel there is a world outside there, maybe 1 or 2 or 5 years down the line, where this entire models will evolve towards reasoning first and then probably actionable, and getting closer to even mission critical statements?
Yeah, so the very fact that the whole world and so many brains are working on this particular problem means that it will evolve, and there is no question about that. It's like, are we alone in this universe? Of course we are not alone in this universe. The probability of we being alone is next to none. So it will definitely evolve, there is no doubt about it. The other question is around, will it become more factual in nature? And that's a very common problem that everybody faces with LLMs, because they don't actually nobody understands how the human brain understands logic. Nobody understands how does a child start learning, right? And there is a lot of neuroscience going behind it to understand how does the brain start learning things? How do we come up with something called logic? And when I don't know how I learned something, how do I teach it to somebody? And how do I teach it to a machine, right? So that's a very common problem, and obviously LLMs cannot understand counterfactuals. We are people who understand counterfactuals so much. We think about what is not probable and start fretting about it inside our head. What if the world ends tomorrow? That's a very common thought that we can all articulate on, right? So counterfactual is something that LLMs cannot work with, and humans are extremely pro at working at counterfactuals. So the whole thought process around reasoning is something that even we don't understand so well. And people, there are papers which are being published right now which says you need to go back to the olden age of symbolic AI. I don't know whether people are here who are doing AI since the symbolic AI times, where you write if A equal to B, then it is this, and write all the rules that is possible and define everything that is there. And it is not possible for us to write all the rules because nobody taught us all the rules. But still, maybe a confluence of symbolic AI and the capability of LLMs to understand a little bit of hallucination here and there will make it look like it is reasoning, but yeah, we don't know. That's probably one of the ideas. If we get to know, if we are able to work with neuroscience very well and then understand how the brain understands and be able to train a model in the way the brain understands, probably we'll be able to get somewhere. But yeah, definitely there will be something. At least there will be a pretense to say that there is something.
What's your insider view from Microsoft?
There's nothing to do with Microsoft. This actually takes us to the point where we also need to discuss a little more about the responsible AI part of it. See, taking a cue from what Anand said about human ingenuity, or he made a statement outside recently, the recent statement made by Dura of Uber, where he said that Indians want the best quality but are willing to pay money for it. And he said, that's exactly what has been driving Jugaad and innovation in India, which I think is fair, right? If we are not pressed for something, then we probably won't innovate. But having said that, that's the same quirkiness that we need to factor in when you are building an app. And we have kind of worked with a couple of customers to do exactly that. One good analogy that we got from one of our customers was about, so they were building a smart kitchen, okay? And there was this, while they're going to open it up to a limited set of audience, there were a bunch of folks who wanted to know how can I cook a chicken tandoori in less than 20 minutes. The LLM gave them a response, it was undercooked, and then they kind of sued them saying, now because it is undercooked, I'm going to fall ill if I eat it. And then there were a bunch of folks who, just for fun's sake, went and questioned, what are the various poisons that I can create with all the household ingredients? End of the day, it's a smart kitchen, end of the day, it's a cookery thing, so the LLM did respond. So, that quirkiness, that whole human ingenuity is what we need to capture, which is why we need to be very, very careful when we use the responsible AI bit. I would really exhort everybody in this room, given that you guys are building that stuff, and we kind of landed with every single customer of ours in every conversation. We have a bunch of assessments, some kind of guardrails that we have built. There's content filter out there, there's abuse filter out there. If you guys haven't used it, check it out. Not saying to use it, build your own, but definitely look at those, because the same ingenuity that is sparking all this innovation, you also have a bunch of people who are thinking exactly the other way. When people are building computers, there were enough people building viruses. So remember, you're going to always have people who are going to test your models and apps to the other extreme.
And the idea here is not to dissuade you from working with LLMs anymore. But I think these thought-provoking questions are really important, pertinent for all your businesses. That what are the fault lines, where does it fail, and where does it lose its meaningfulness to the end value proposition, whether it's customer-facing or to any of the operators of your product. So be very grounded in terms of working with those expectations and understanding the constraints of all these technologies.